Think Jesus's role was? Who do you think he was?
Well, he was literally the Son of God, and he was on the earth to teach, and he wandered. I mean, he was an outlaw. He did some crazy shit. He overturned the tax tables, and he really railed against a lot of stuff.
Why do you think, based on what information that you have, why do you think that he existed?
Jesus had to die after teaching us how to live a good life and how to be a good person, which is all about love. And that was to absolve us of our sins, which is kind of a cool out.
What question is he answering? I don't know if he didn't hear the question. But I mean, my goodness, it seems like this always happens. It's always like you ask like how they know what they think they know is true, and then they go into just what they think is true. And then I don't know, it's crazy how this works. And it's like they can't hear it. It's like they can't hear that they're not answering the question, that they're just like saying that they think what they think more. They're just like, no, here's totes more what I think. And it's like, that's not what we asked. Okay. Anyway, we're going to get into it. This is a Joe Rogan clip. And some Fundie-Tuber is covering it. So we're going to check it out. I am Brently, and this is the Punk Apostate. Let's go. Another one of these Fundies that is like so concerned with the immortal soul of Joe Rogan. And so they, anytime religion comes up, Christianity specifically, on Joe Rogan, you got like a million of these guys just like tripping over themselves to figure out if Joe's actually a Christian or not, And so I think that's what we got going on here. Let's get into it.
All right, y'all, let's keep it pushing. 58-year-old atheist turns Christian after trying to prove that religion is a conspiracy. Let's get straight into it because I'm curious to see how this conversation goes.
Yeah, me too.
By this, because I've looked at every conspiracy theory, moon landing, 9/11, JFK, I mean, all kinds of conspiracies. The one I'd never looked at, and now, I'm 58, so I'm like, okay, let me look at this one, is God. And I said, let me see about this God thing. I've never been a religious guy. And so I start reading and I start talking to people. I also found that around me, like a couple of people I was working with, they're all Christians. And not that anyone's ever pushing anything on me. When I asked them questions, they would gladly answer.
Here he got really defensive because it's like he hurt himself real quick there. And he's like, yeah. And then everybody around me actually was, because I'm a conspiracy guy. So like, everybody around me just also happened to be Christian, but they didn't influence me though. They didn't know. I came to these conclusions on my own. I just asked questions and they answered them. So it's not like they did. Anyway, I'm going to move on.
And there's a lot of stuff written about Jesus. There's a lot written, thousands of years of books and there's some contemporary stuff such as evidence demand.
Have you looked at all the stuff that's written about Jesus, man? There's like a book where Jesus grows to be 500 feet tall. Yeah, a lot of people wrote a lot about Jesus. Okay, in that same one, a cross comes out and gives a speech. The cross, So yeah, there's lots of stuff written about Jesus. Doesn't mean that it's true in any way, shape, or form. Obviously,
and a verdict, and this just is so much. And I got to tell you, Joe. As sure as I know that Building 7 didn't fall down out of sympathy for Building 1 and 2, God is real. What? Jesus existed. He was a badass outlaw and has changed my outlook on life.
Oh, wow. So we got a real critical thinker going on here. Talking about Building 7. As soon as you start here, it's like, as sure as I am that Building 7. Oh, man. Are we at a bus stop?
Really changed.
Isn't Joe Rogan just the internet bus stop? You know what I mean? Like crazy bus stop person is just Joe Rogan's podcast. Like that's all it is on it.
I used to think Christians were crazy, especially the Christians. And this is before I was a Christian.
It's like, I used to think Christians were crazy. Now, just want to make this clear. This was before I was a Christian. I used to think Christians. Really, man? Really? Give me things that didn't need to be said for 500, Alex. Like, what are you doing?
Those mushy gushy, overly emotional, oh, I love God so much. I used to be like, bruh, y'all are faking it. Ain't no way you have a relationship with somebody that you can't even see and you feeling all that mushy gushiness. Ain't no way. Then I encountered God for myself. And I literally, I've said this story 1,000 times. Well, not 1,000 times, but I've said it a lot of times, you know.
It's weird that you like want to correct that. You know, I wish he was as honest about how many times he's said stories as he was about, you know, how he knows Christianity is true and stuff.
I literally felt God wrap his arms around me and hug me. I felt the embrace, and I literally started bawling, crying. And then ever since then, I've been one of those mushy gushy Christians that I used to not like, that I used to think were faking it.
Okay, so a lot of this, and it's funny that this is always what it seems to come down to, is, you know, I was dealing with something very, you know, that was stressing me out, made me feel really bad, you know, it's hard to deal with, whatever. And a bunch of people were like, here's the solution. The solution is magic. There's a magic carpenter. You invite him in your heart. Okay. And then when he's in there, he makes you feel better, you know, because he's real. And he fixes all the things inside of you. You know, he's a carpenter, right? So he's in there just fixing up his temple, right? You're his temple. He's the carpenter. He's fixing it up. You know, he's redoing the doors. He's changing the windows, you know, and that's what it comes down to. It's just like, oh, well, I felt better one day when I was like, hey, you know, I'm going to rely on magic to feel better. And then they're like, wow, I do feel better. And it's like, dude, that literally means nothing. You could do this with like lucky socks or just anything. We have so many examples of people using something nonsensical to feel better about themselves or whatever things happening, you know, whether it's Eastern mysticism, you know, even like the witches and stuff. I casted a spell and then I felt better, you know. It was weird. It was like, you know, I cast a spell of peace. I made like a little a sigil thing, and then you put it in your pocket. Yeah, and then I felt better. I was like, man, because now I've got the positive energy. Like you got so many different ways that you can make yourself feel better through bull, right? But it is any of it true, right? And that's all they've got. All they've got is I felt better one day, and that's it. And now we're done, you know. And it was like, okay, but how do you know that the reason that you felt better, like that any of those things are true, that the thing is actually there? Like, yeah, but I felt better. Okay, so that's it. That's like literally all you got. Okay.
It's a real thing. Like when you encounter God in a real way, you are changed forever and you will never look at life the same.
Listen to how many times he has to say real. You know, it's like, who are you trying to convince it's real, man? Us or you? Shit, if you're like, if it's real and you encounter God, like, because he's real and you encounter him in a real way, he really does real. I mean, he's real. It feels better. Oh,
you will never look at life the same. You'll never look at what you watch, what you listen to, what you eat, who your friends are. You'll never look at anything the same.
Yeah, it's almost as if you like give up your agency 100%. And you're like, can you just tell me what to think, what to listen to, who to be around, what to you know, all that type of stuff. And it's weird how there's a comfort in that. Like humans are, we are so mentally lazy. That's what this is. We are just so mentally lazy that we're like, can you do my thinking for me, please? and you know who's like ready to be like, I will do your thinking for you. Absolutely. Religion. It reminds me of, there's this episode of Friends where like Rachel was like, I make all these bad decisions, you know, and I don't want to make any more decisions because all my decisions are bad. Phoebe, I need you to make all my decisions for me. And Phoebe's like, oh no, I would never, I don't feel comfortable having that kind of power over other people. And Monica's like, I'll do it. But that's exactly the kind of mentality I feel like a lot of people go through, because a lot of what leads them to religion in the first place is, I made a bad decision. I'm mad that I did a dumb thing. I regret the thing that I chose to do. And then, you know, you're like, well, how do I fix the decisions that I make? Well, I know, I'll stop making decisions. You know, I'll just let some other person think for me, you know? And they're like, okay, good. Now you know, now it's their fault. Okay. If things go bad, it couldn't be my fault, right? It must be a test. It must be a test because I'm doing the thing that they said to do. You know, it's got to be a test. You know, that's the only reason bad things can happen, because I'm not even making my choices here. So it's got to be.
Yo, ask God right now to show himself to you.
See,
but ask him in a genuine heart.
Okay. So pretend like it's real and then act like it's real and then be like, then you'll figure it out that you're right about it being real. Like that seems to be their thing every single time. So like, if you just act like it's true, and just ask God into your, so you just have to start from the conclusion that God's real. He comes into your heart, Jesus, the whole thing, all mess is all real. Start from that conclusion and then just act like it's real and then wait for your feelings to catch up. You know what I mean? That's like what this is all about, right?
Ask him to reveal himself to you, and he will reveal himself to you.
Because here's the thing too, if you act like something is true, like you say, this is like a salesman tactic, right? Like if you act like something is true, right, and then you say it out loud, we don't like to be in conflict with ourselves, right? We don't like to contradict ourselves. We have like this idea that everything that we think is logically consistent and everything like that. So if we start saying stuff, it moves your brain into the position where you actually do believe that it's true, just because you're acting like it is true, because you're trying to not be in conflict with your own behavior, right? And your own words that are coming out of your mouth. Salesmen use this all the time because they'll be like, what is it that's keeping you from buying this product? And they're like, well, it doesn't have this or that or the other thing. And you're like, so if I was able to give you this, that, or the other thing, you would buy the product, right? And they're like, yeah. If you were able to, somehow meet all of these, I would absolutely buy right now. And then, okay, well, tell you what, I'm going to knock a couple $1,000s off, and I'm going to give you all the stuff that you asked for. So, and then they're like, oh, okay, but you just said that if I was able to do all this stuff, you would buy the product. It's because we don't like to be in conflict with what we're saying, And so it's interesting how it works that way. But that's why they tell them to do it this way all the time. It's like, just act like it's true. Just genuinely go in your heart and be like, okay, I'm really super duper real about this right now. God, come show me the stuff that you're real. I kind of feel fuzzy. It's real. It's real. I kind of feel fuzzy now. It's real. And now I'm just going to keep convincing myself that it is real by acting like it is real.
The Holy Spirit.
Hold on. Thank you. Yeah, hold on. Sorry. So, Mr. Smith. Hey, I like that name. Mr. Anderson. Yeah. Fake it till you make it. That's exactly right. Yep. 100%.
I think there's a reason why it exists, why it's so prevalent in so many cultures. It helps people.
It's about love.
Yeah.
It's all about love.
Yeah.
I like how Joe's. Yeah, whatever. It's okay. Sure. I don't care. Yeah. No, it says, and Joe's like, he always talks about it like it's just a concept that exists, right? Like, oh, a lot of people believe this and a lot of people feel like it helps them and stuff, right? Like he's always talking about it from that position. And there's this disconnect. It always seems with like the people that he's talking to that are these hardcore Christian, not even hardcore. This guy doesn't seem very hardcore, but just, he's a true believer or whatever of Christianity. There's always this disconnect where he's like talking about it from what seems like a sociological perspective, right? And just like, oh, people think a thing, is it, why? I wonder why people think this thing, and they're like, well, because God had to die and then come back to you because of our sins, because otherwise, and it's like they just go straight to script, they don't, and he's like, yeah, that's not, because like you hear him, he's like, it's about love, and he's like, it's not, I'm talking about the, sociological, like how it makes you feel better to just think that, anyway, never mind.
Think Jesus's role was, who do you think he was?
Well, he was literally the Son of God, and he was on the earth to teach, and he wandered. He was an outlaw. He did some crazy shit. He overturned the tax tables, and he really railed against a lot of stuff.
Why do you based on what information that you have, why do you think that he existed?
The Jesus had to die after teaching us how to live a good life and how to be a good person, which is all about love. And that was to absolve us of our sins, which is kind of a cool out.
So that's how he knows that the Jesus actually existed. That's the question he was answering. I don't know if anybody forgot.
It's literally every book in the Bible is about, like I was reading this morning, forget what it was, but it's like
this guy just killed. It's like every book in the Bible is about. I was reading this morning, and I can't remember what I was reading. Just what the fuck are you doing, man? Like, why can't you finish in thought? Jeez.
So now he's like, okay, how can I, from the devil's standpoint, he's like, okay, how can I pull as many people as I can with me? Because I already know where I'm going. So how can I pull as many people as I can with me? And that's what you're seeing right now. It's spiritual warfare, but the war is already won. You got to understand that. We have to walk in victory.
That literally makes no fucking sense, dude. If a war is won, it's won. There is no fighting a war. Like, you're literally contradicting yourself as you're saying the thing that you're saying when you're saying it. Like, this is, I don't know how they do this.
And I'm just new to this, Joe, so I can't answer everything. But I love studying. I love reading. It's fascinating material. And
It
there's
is fascinating
so much
material.
there. It's really fascinating.
Why does Joe sound like he's lying? Like, he's just like, yeah, it is fascinating material. Like, he sounds like he's in the middle of a comedy bit, you know? Yeah, that's so interesting. It is fascinating.
A person being the actual son of God, I would need a lot of evidence.
Just as I know that JFK was assassinated, and I really believe the CIA was involved because it's been written. I've just read documents and documents. So
who wrote it? Like, he's talking. Okay, so he's saying that, like, the conspiracies for the JFK thing. And I don't know a lot about that. Like, I don't think the CIA was involved. I don't know. As far as I can tell, there is no evidence to suggest that. All the evidence points to the guy being a radical, whatever, dude. Anyway, but so we're already working with somebody who's not a very critical thinker here. You know, just out the gate. He was like, I was totally believing all these other conspiracies. And it's weird too, because the way he framed it at the beginning was, oh, he thought that God was just another conspiracy. But he believes all the conspiracies. How is that different? Like, he's not saying conspiracy like it's untrue. He's saying conspiracy like it is true. So it's just weird the way that they're framing the whole thing. And then now he's going on to say that he believes all this stupid shit about conspiracies.
when you look into the Bible and everything that's been written about the Bible, that's 100 million times more has been written about that, and it's survived all these years. So I'm just someone who reads.
Writes about The Shining, and a bunch of people review the writing of The Shining and write about The Shining, it doesn't mean that The Shining actually happened. You know, just because so many people are writing about this particular religion doesn't mean that there was a person.
But they haven't.
Interesting. He's talking about Jesus like he doesn't even know if he existed, which is kind of interesting, right? And he's actually kind of doing the, oh, well, you know, you can write about stuff, you know, a story or whatever. That doesn't mean that the story is true, right? Now, I'm really curious how he's going to counter that. You know what I mean? Like, what's his argument going to be? Well, here's how we know it's true. Okay, here we go.
Written about
doesn't mean they weren't. I'm not saying they weren't. I'm not saying I know, but I'm saying it doesn't mean that man was the son of God.
I'm just telling you, my process is when I investigate things, and to me, it was a conspiracy theory. Like, I'm just going to start reading, and I read for 3 weeks until I gave up and said, I can keep reading, but all the evidence just is thrown at me over and over and over again. If I'm going to believe certain things about JFK.
It's a conspiracy theory that you're trying to convince yourself of, because that's how you, this is what this guy does not understand confirmation bias, like, at all. He's like, it's all this positive evidence just being thrown at me, but thrown at you by who? Oh, all the people that believe it. Yeah. If you Google, is Jesus God or whatever, you know how many things will come up and be like, totes my goats, Jesus is God, and you need to believe it. And here's like all the reasons, and then they'll just quote the Bible over and over again. See, Jesus even said that he's God in the Bible, you know, so proof, you know. And it's like, dude, you're just looking at a bunch of information that's obviously put there by people that are trying to convince you of a thing, and then you're just saving up all the hits and denying all the misses.
Or 9/11 or whatever, which I've read as much as I can, but there's not that much. It's just for my own conscience. I have to, if I'm going to believe that after reading 50 years of documentation versus that thousands of years of documentation.
But it's thousands of years of documentation of a story.